It's March. It starts March.
Okay.
We should.
Did your one of mine did? I have one.
No, it's
It should be.
I'm not instant, but school laws are so excited.
This one should work, but it's the only one.
How did that carpet here? Did you end up getting your carpet like?
Because I think it's like.
You guys were crushing that. I just kept looking and I just saw you guys holding something. I'm like, what?
All right, everybody, we're going to get started. We finished off at birth last time, and the big question is, now the baby is here, now what do we do?
Cry.
You cry. Yeah, there will be some crying. Definitely will be some crying, and we're going to talk about those cries today. How many of you have ever spent any time with an infant at all? Share with me some words or phrases about how that is like. What is that like, spending time with an infant?
Stressful.
Stressful. I see this happen. That was on everybody's mind, I guess. What else?
I was just scared I was doing things wrong.
Okay.
Like when I got with low.
All right. Fearful of your own skill and technique. All right. Messy. Elaborate on that.
I mean, you have blowouts, you have spit up, you have throw up, you have snot, you have tears, you have all of the things.
Okay, so when you say messy, you are specifically talking about all of the things that come out of the child. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Could there be other types of messy? Like my house was a complete disaster area. Clothes everywhere, dishes in the sink, exhausted parents saying someone will get to it. Okay. So that kind of messy. Anything else? We got stressful, we got scared of my own ability, and messy.
It's fun.
Fun! Oh, we finally got a positive. All right. It's fun. Elaborate on fun.
I mean, it's just cool to see, like, I don't know, when I see, like, a little baby, it's so cool to think, like, a human body, like, God made us with the capability of, like, forming a whole little baby in us, and, like, just how intricately God made their little fingers and their little tongues and, like, their little baby smells, and, like, I don't know, it's really cool to get to see that, and they're so cute and little and innocent, and, like, it's just so different from who we are today. Like, as you grow, you're not as innocent, you don't need as much protection, and so it's so cool that, like, they're so defenseless, but they're so, I don't know, it's just cool.
Yeah. No, I get that. And nobody ever says, oh, you have cute little college girl smells. Nope, I don't. So, I'm glad somebody finally said fun. We're going to talk a lot over the next few weeks about these different stages of parenting. And stress is going to come up a lot, and scared of our own technique is going to come up a lot, and it's going to seem like we're going to say, oh man, parenting is terrible, it's negative, don't ever do it, but there are so many positives to the parent-child relationship, and what we want to learn in this class, what we want to think about as future family professionals is how can we help parents be the optimal parents that they can be for their children. And so we'll think about all of those types of things. So the baby is here, and we ask the question, now what? And if you would like to download an outline note sheet, there is one in the Unit 2 folder for you on parenting infants. And the main answer to the question of now what is an answer we've given before in this class, and we will continue to give at every life stage, and that is that the primary task of parenting is to keep the child
Healthy and safe.
That had no energy at all. The primary task of parenting is to keep the child
Healthy and safe.
There's the energy I was looking for. To keep the child healthy and safe. And so everything we are going to talk about over the next several weeks is going to be centered around this idea that parents keep their children healthy and safe. And we do that in a variety of different ways. But we have to understand that parenting is, it's not always easy, but it can be fun and rewarding. All right? I like this video. This is a cool little series. I recommend this series on YouTube if you want to get a chance to watch all of their videos. We'll probably watch a few more over the next few weeks as well. It's how to be a dad series. What I really love about this one is their day in the life with their newborn baby, and it really gives a glimpse of what a quick snapshot day is like with a newborn. So let's start off with this.
Oh, it's a dirty one. He's all registered, got his birth certificate. He's on the system.
He's got hiccups. You got hiccups.
Where are you going?
You have to go.
Ready.
Hey.
That's a good one. That's fine. Morning, Josh.
What common themes did you see throughout their day?
Crying.
Crying, yeah. What else?
Diaper changes.
Yep.
A lot of breastfeeding.
Feeding, diaper changes, nappy changes, right? You gotta make sure when you go to other places that you say correct terms. Because when you go to Auckland, New Zealand, and you ask for a napkin, they look at you like you're kind of weird. Like, 'cause that ain't what we call those things. There's feeding, there's changing, there's crying, all of that's happening. Did the parents look wide awake? Nope. Look pretty tired, right? Even when they're eating dinner, they're still like. I was impressed that they made that meal, to be honest with you. That didn't just come from a can or something. So that's a good illustration of the day in the life of parenting an infant. There's a lot going on, but it's pretty routine, and you're trying to get in your flow as a parent, right? But all the while, feeding, sleeping, responding to cries, all of that, these parents are basically keeping their child what? Healthy and safe, right? You see how all of this ties in to this idea of healthy and safe? So what we see as we look at infancy is that parents are keeping their children healthy and safe through the promotion of 3 specific types of development. Physical, cognitive, and see if this one's going to hold out on me. Maybe. Let's grab another one. Socio-emotional. Which should sound familiar to us because those are the pathways to development that we study often in developmental courses, that we are all developing physically, cognitively, and socio-emotionally, and all of that is happening at the same time. Parenting is this unique relationship where caregivers actually get to promote these types of development in children in order to keep them healthy and safe. And so when we think about infancy, I want us to keep in mind one thing. Infants are not tabula rasa. Tabula rasa means what? Tabula rasa means blank slate. Remember, some Greek philosophers of the past thought that infants were blank slates. I would say that they are not blank slates, but that they are a bundle of different behavioral systems, physical, cognitive, socio-emotional, that are just waiting to be activated. And parents have this great responsibility and privilege to help in activating those types of systems. So, when we think about activating or promoting physical development, in infancy there are some things that we have to really focus on. Because these are the things that kind of take the stage, the front of the stage during infancy. All right? The first of those things is nutrition. And this is going to be important because we have to have a big discussion about nutrition as parents and what is nutrition. And it leads us into this debate of what should we give our infant? Breast milk or formula? And so for the next 1 minute, I would like for you in your groups to make a decision. Are we breastfeeding or are we formula feeding? Ready? Go.
Your body's already producing it.
Well, you can, but I don't know a lot about that. I know you can use lactation,
All right, group reporters, are we breastfeeding or formula feeding?
We are breastfeeding.
All three of us are breastfeeding. That is fantastic. Now, reporters, tell me why.
So for our group, we were thinking like the nutrients that they will get from breast milk instead of formula will be a little bit better, and they'll have those probiotics for their entire life. And then sometimes when the baby gets sick, the mother will make, it's like the liquid gold, and it'll help them get better faster. And then it also helps with the mother-child bond.
Anything to add to any of that?
So the same thing.
Said the same things. Okay, so we've got a physical benefit, the antibodies needed, passed on, help keep the baby healthy, right? We've got a social element, it strengthens the attachment bond, those types of things. All right, so now let me ask you a couple of questions. What if you have a child who cannot latch on and it's just too stressful to breastfeed? What do we do? Do we force it, or do we come up with an alternative? Discuss.
like their father who's feeding. Just don't get that It's also expensive. It is. That's right. So you want to.
All right, reporters, what did we decide?
We said pumping.
Pumping. All right, so we're going to get a breast pump. We're going to get milk that way. All right, any other alternatives? Okay, everyone said pumping. All right, so let's continue on down this train of thought. We know that a mother is going to produce breast milk more easily if there is continual removal of said milk, and there is actually something in the baby's saliva that helps to activate that you can't always get from a breast pump, right? So there might be an issue there. We also know that for a lot of women, there are breastfeeding issues that are with their bodies, that their nipple area becomes dry and cracked, sometimes even so badly that it's bleeding, and it hurts to touch. We know that their ducts can become clogged, which can be very painful. We're still going to have them pump. We also know, especially in our culture, we talked about this already, within 6 weeks, many women who are workers, and there are a lot more of them today than not, are going back to work. And they may not have the availability to pump. So now what do we do? Now what is an alternative? Continue talking.
You can do both. You can freeze it, but if like for whatever reason not possible.
It's so painful. Oh my gosh, when you just turn around like, no.
All right, reporters, what's our options now? What are we thinking?
Formula.
Oh, we're moving to formula now. Okay. We're not going to have mom try anymore. All right.
We said that it could maybe even affect the mom's relationship with her child. If every time she's trying to feed them, it's hurting her. And like, so like, even if it's like just for a little bit of like, you're just taking a break and you're like, okay, maybe we'll come back to it later. Or if you literally just do not have time to pump, then like, that's just adding a whole bunch of other stress to you that if you just put formula in a bottle, it'll make it so much easier.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we're focusing on that social relationship again, right? Those attachment bonds. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
Well, this was going like off of them if they were busy working, but a lot of people freeze it, and the breast milk,
Okay.
and just eat it for the day.
Yeah. So continue to pump it optimal times for you, and then freeze it. Okay. Right. That's an option.
We said both of those.
You said both of those. All right. So we got the happy medium.
Also, I know like whenever there was a really big baby formula shortage and stuff, other mothers would like communicate in the platforms and say like, hey, I have frozen breast milk, or I have this formula that you need that there's a shortage of. And so like, I think also relying on other mothers if you can't meet those needs is a great way to also do that.
Could be if that family has the ability and resource to do that. Rely on other mothers could be. Absolutely. Okay, let me throw another wrench in this. I'm a dad. I do not have memory glands. But I want to socially bond with my child as well. How do we accomplish that? Discuss.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one.
Like,
Sometimes I know someone and maybe so like really that's true. That's the one thing when I have that like
I was like, oh, I know that.
Yeah, that's practically the only thing they can do.
It's the bear.
They can put it
All right.
and they can hold that bottle.
Reporters, what did you say?
skin to skin contact.
Skin to skin contact, okay? What do we call that? Anybody know? There's actually a term for that. It's called kangaroo care. Yeah, it is a wonderful thing. And it's a great way for fathers to build that social bond with their child. What else? Other reporters, what did you say?
We said that if you're gonna be giving like the baby a bottle anyways, like if you're going the formula route where like you have to pump, then alternate between who feeds the baby at those times if you're really wanting it to be like a one feeding. So that it's just like one time the mom does it, one time the father does it.
Yeah, or alternating feedings. And you made mention of what?
The dad in the video.
That's the dad in the video. Yeah. You made mention of the dad in the video, getting up in the middle of the night, right? To help do some things too. Okay. Anything else? Alright, so here's what I want you to see from this. And this is where I'm going to stand, and I think this is where the science stands too. Breastfeeding is optimal. Breast milk is physically the best option. But it is not always practical. And in fact, I would argue that the majority of the time in our culture, it is not practical. Here's what is fantastic. In our day and age, we live in a time where medical science has advanced so much that formula is as close to mother's milk as it has ever been before. And there are things that we can do with formula that we can't do with mother's milk. you could type into a search engine, I need a formula designed specifically for a colicky baby with a dairy allergy, and you will find it. Right? So, I want us to appreciate the way that bodies are made and to appreciate the optimal path of breastfeeding, while also recognizing that it is not the only path, and no one should be shamed for choosing one or the other. Just shouldn't happen that way. The most important thing is the child getting the nutrition that they need? Are they getting the meals that they need? Are they getting the nutrients that they need for their specific little bodies so that they can continue to physically develop? Does that make sense? So nutrition is a part of that. Well visits are a part of promoting physical development. Well visits are visits to the doctor. We want those to happen regularly. After the first year, they're going to space out more, and as we move through childhood, then our well visits are going to become yearly. But early on, we want those well visits to be a little more often, right? So that's a way we can promote physical development. We promote physical development by focusing on sleep. Infants will sleep somewhere around 17 to 19 hours a day. That's a lot. There's 24 hours, right? Some of you are like, oh, that's heaven. 17 hours of sleep a day. That's beautiful. When they are awake, they're most likely eating or pooping, right? So they need sleep, and we need to allow them to sleep. Every infant is going to have their own pattern, and part of promoting physical development is allowing those infants to find that pattern without trying to force a pattern upon them. Both of our kids had very similar patterns. They would sleep for about 4-hour periods and then get up and eat, maybe play for a little bit, and then sleep for another 4-hour period. Both of them were very similar in that. Most are going to sleep somewhere in the range of 2 to 3 hours at a time and then wake up. And so part of promoting physical development in infancy is going to be tied back to what we talked about in the last section about promoting our own physical development and fitness during the pregnancy. We have to get ready for that. Did you notice? That baby was crying every hour or two, needing something else, right? And they were up and down, up and down. And they decided they had the baby sleeping in the room with them, right? And so some parents will choose that, and so sleep is even more disruptive for the parents. So focusing on sleep is going to be important. Allowing the infant to find their pattern and the parent to readjust their own patterns as well. We also can think about behavioral systems. I like to think about these as like reflexes, like the smile reflex, right? Babies make the cutest little smiles, don't they? They make little smiles and they blow bubbles when they're giggling and stuff like that. And sometimes they're smiling because of the social interaction, and you have to like get real close because their eyes aren't developed enough to see who's actually looking at them yet when they're newborns. But you get in there and over that first year, they're going to be able to see clearer and clearer, but they're going to recognize things like smells and touches and things like that. And that's how they're going to know their caregiver early on, and they're going to smile for that. And sometimes they're going to smile because the formula or the breast milk you just gave them made their tummy feel a little weird, and they went, and that makes them giggle, right? Which is funny to me because we still do that, right? In adulthood, right? Admit it. If it happens, you laugh a little bit, right? And so from the very beginning, these babies are smiling. They're also, cries are a part of engaging those behavior systems. Cries are communication. Cry is their communication system. They haven't learned the language yet, so their language is to make noise. And cries have different meanings, right? Cries have different meanings. Cries can be happy. Happy cries tend to be kind of rhythmic. Right? We hear that, we're like, oh, okay, they're swell. Right? Distress cries tend to be a little louder and a little sharper, also with some rhythm to it. Right? When they are really in trouble, when there is pain, right? Could be pain that is, external pain. I don't know why anyone would swat an infant, but I don't know. There's that. Or more likely internal pain. Maybe the tummy hurts, or maybe they have some diaper rash kicking in or something. That's going to be typically a loud cry, a loud burst, followed by a very rhythmic short burst, right? So like, that's a hurt cry, right? And I love Cry Day. Cry Day makes me, I love to be able to do those cries. Here's what's fascinating. All of these things that we're talking about, nutrition, sleep, well visits, behavioral systems, and in just a second, brain development, all of these things are somewhat dependent upon parent response. How the caregiver is responding to all of these things is the degree to which we are going to promote physical development in children. Now, brain development is happening as well. Brain development is happening, and we're going to talk about brain development in two ways. We're going to talk about what's physically happening, and we're going to talk about what's happening within the infant in a cognitive way, how they're developing thought process through there. So when we talk about the physical development of the brain, there are a couple of terms that I want you to know. The first is neurogenesis. Neurogenesis. Neurogenesis is a process that happens in the womb, or begins in the womb. It is the formation of neurons and glia. Neurons are going to be the cells that we use to process information. And glia are going to be the cells that provide structural support and metabolic substance for the neurons. And this is type of physical development that is just happening. Parents don't have to coach their infants into neurogenesis. Grow your little neurons, grow your little neurons. That's not how it works, all right? That's just happening. The second term I want you to know is synaptogenesis. Synaptogenesis. This is the process of forming synapses, or the connections between neurons. Yep, the process of forming synapses, or the connections between neurons. There are 1.8 million created per second. $1.8 million created per second. And it begins to look like a little tree with these connections. And we call that proliferation of dendrites. In simple terms, it's just branches of neurons. And this happens throughout infancy, and at about 2 years, the body starts to prune about 20 billion of these per day. they're not being used. They're created, they're fired, they're being used, then they're not used as we continue to develop, and those are pruned away. The third term I want you to know is myelination. Myelination. This is when a very specific part of the neuron, called the axon, AXON, is sheathed in a fatty substance called myelin. MYELIN. So myelination, part of the neuron called the axon, is sheathed in a fatty substance called myelin. This allows for the conduction of electrical impulses. And in very simple terms, those electrical impulses are what allow for the travel of information throughout the body. And so as we take in information, we start to process that information, we send that information throughout the rest of our body. So, baby feels a rumbling in their tummy, they are hungry, they realize they are hungry, impulses are firing in their brain. They need someone else to realize they are hungry. Those impulses travel to their communication center and, right? They communicate. And then parent responds to that. So it's all tied together. Does that make sense? So let's review very quickly. When we talk about physical brain development, what is the first term that I want you to know? Neurogenesis. And neurogenesis is what? Formation of neurons. All right. And the second term I want you to know is? Synaptogenesis. Synaptogenesis is what? Oh, I didn't understand anybody there. Let's go with Sarah.
The connections between the neurons.
The connections between neurons, right, which are called what, Amanda?
I didn't write this down.
What are the connections between neurons called? Do you remember? If it's synaptic, yeah, synapses.
Oh, I did.
You did write it down. You got it. All right. And the third term I want you to know is myelination, which has to do with what, Sadie? Myelin, which is what, Tristan?
It's the axon sheath in a fatty substance called myelin that allows the conduction of electrical impulses that allows information to travel throughout the body.
That was well done. Myelin is the fatty substance that sheathes the axon, which is a part of what, Ashley?
Axon
Is a specific part of what?
is the
Myelin's what sheathes the axon, which is a specific part of the neuron. Good job. Good job. Which, as Tristan said, Maggie, allows for the what?
Conduction of electrical impulses.
Electrical impulses, which is how the brain works. All right? So all of that is happening and begins in the womb. It continues to happen. The infant is going to be taking in all of this information, and their brain is developing that, which leads us into the second way that parents are promoting health and safety. That next behavioral system is through promotion of cognitive development. Cognitive development. Now, this is more about what the brain is doing as opposed to how the brain is doing it, right? That's the physical development side. Cognitive development is all about processing and thought and how we are taking in information and how we are making sense of that information. And parents have a specific role to play in helping to promote cognitive development as well. Anybody ever watched a Baby Einstein video? Anybody know? Nobody? Oh. Google Baby Einstein. Baby Einstein is big in our house. Google Baby Einstein. Baby Einstein, the whole idea of Baby Einstein is that we're going to provide things like art and music and things that are visually stimulating and audibly stimulating for children so that they can begin processing, right? When we think about our ability to process, how many of you have heard the name Piaget? All right, most of us have heard of Piaget. Piaget has a theory of cognitive development. It's a stage theory. Let's see if anybody knows. What is Piaget's very first stage of cognitive development? You know what it's called? Tell Dr. Chambers on you. Say it louder. Sensory motor, right? So for Piaget is saying that at our very beginning, we are using all of our senses. Our senses include 5 things. What are they? Touch? What?
Wait, what did you ask? Did you ask our senses?
Yes.
Okay, that's my point.
What did you say?
Smell?
Oh, I thought you said stealth. I was like, stealth would be a cool sense, but it's not one. Touch, smell, taste,
Ear.
Sight. All right. Wow. That was a struggle to get through the 5 basic senses. That's like freshman year biology. High school freshman year biology. Okay, so Piaget says 5 senses are activated. As babies, we're like on overload because those neurons are being created, the synapses are being created, electrical impulses are firing. We are taking in information like crazy. Everything is brand new. All the sights, all the sounds, all the smells, all the feelings, right? It's all brand new. And my favorite thing, all the tastes, right? Because what is the first thing that babies do with anything you put in their hands? They put it in their mouth, which is directly related to one of the behavior systems we talked about promoting in physical development, the nutrition thing, right? Related to our most basic reflex, which is sucking. We are coming out of the womb looking for something to eat. And so anything that gets in our hand, we're going to see what it tastes like. Nope, not food. All food, right? That's what we're going to do. Piaget says that this is great. This is normal. This is what we want to see because we are using all of our senses to make sense of the world around us, and then that allows us to move and engage with that world. And our first year of life is all about new experience, and as we get bigger and more physically capable, we move and we explore more. Parents help to promote that through creating environments, through providing stimulation, through giving their infant opportunity to experience new big things. To me, that is one of the most fun things, Morgan, about being a parent. So, I think what would be really fun for you is just to go, I know no one does this anymore, but back in my day, in the late 1900s, we used to go to the shopping malls. And we would go to the shopping malls and we would go just to watch people, and sometimes I do that. I would encourage you to go watch people. Go watch people with infants. Watch parents interact with their infants and just count the ways that they are stimulating their infants with new experience. And it's so much fun to observe. You also, in your own interactions with infants, have probably considered this, the way that you get down in their faces and you're so cute, or you play with the little infant keychain, or you put them on the mat with the things that hang down and they're just watching all of that, right? Cognitive development is happening. Caregivers are promoting that. When we come back on Friday, we are going to talk about the third area, which is social emotional development and promoting that. And you're going to have an activity to do within your groups where you are actually going to be creating games to promote social emotional development. So just kind of keep that in your mind for the next 2 days. All right, very quickly before we leave, primary task of parenting is to keep the child
Healthy and safe.
All right, have a great Wednesday.
I think that should be